everybody, I am super sorry I couldn't be there today. This is an absolute first in my 10 plus years of teaching that I have calculated my syllabus and thought that a day that I was teaching was a day that I wasn't teaching, and a day that I wasn't teaching was a day that I was supposed to be teaching. So I apologize. However, we are going to get you taken care of. Here are the supplies that you're going to be using for your day 2 of actually working on your Kandinsky canvases. The first thing I wanted to touch on was this corrugated paper. I know I mentioned corrugated cardboard. I wound up going with this corrugated paper because it's very, very cool. I like that it's already colorful, so that in case you don't completely cover it with color, there's at least something vibrant popping through. To get this onto your canvases, you're going to use Mod Podge. This is a matte Mod Podge, so in case you wind up applying this to a part of your canvas that is not going to be just covered up with paper, it will dry matte. So just take a look at your paint, take a look at your, be like, am I okay with a matte? Am I okay with matte here, or would I prefer gloss? You know, it's just something to think about. Okay, so you just kind of plop that right on there. You just glue it down. I do have white glue in my cart, in my cabinet. I just feel like Mod Podge plays a little bit more nicely with acrylic paint because they're more similar mediums. You can also smush and like pull the corrugations like in different directions and kind of smash them, so it sort of changes the rhythms a little bit. So I would encourage you to kind of mess around with that. The other material that I have as far as papers go is this fantastic mulberry paper. I've got lots of different colors, lots of different thicknesses, fiber types. Like this is just barely scratching the surface. But one of the best ways that I feel like to experience this paper is to tear it and then to apply it in that way. You can layer it on top of the corrugated paper if you want. You can layer it on top of other paint to let some paint shine through. If you like the color, you can wait and apply this, especially like on the last day in a couple of spots if you really want to keep it like pure from any other colors you might put down. Or you can do it today and just watch out for it and not paint anything on top of it if you really want to keep the color the way that it is. Or you can paint over it. That's an option too. So for the paper, for the mulberry paper, I just apply the Mod Podge exactly where I want the paper to be. Sometimes you can just press it down. If you want, you can apply a layer of Mod Podge on top. Same thing with even the thinner mulberry papers, especially. You really don't need a layer of Mod Podge on top. They will just stick to anything because they're just so thin and filmy and amazing, and they tear so wacky. They're really cool. So if you really like the color, like I said, if you really like the color of the mulberry paper the way it is, you can absolutely leave it. Or, and I'm washing my brush off screen here, you can add colors of paint on top. So I'm going to go ahead and, like, let's say I wanted to add a little bit of something to that corrugated cardboard, for example, or corrugated paper. Let's say I wanted to pump that up a notch with some of my sort of lemon yellow that I have. Look at that. That is really cool. I just think that it adds so much more texture and character. Let's say I wanted to add something to that blue. Like, let's say I wanted to add a little bit of this other blue to it to kind of give it almost it really brings out the texture. I sort of just dipped just the tiniest tip of some of my bristles and to make like a dry brush technique. And I'm just sort of scrubbing. In painting, we call it scumbling the paintbrush over the paper to bring out that texture of that mulberry paper. So very cool thing to try. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about is, and I got my palette here, these mediums here. This one is the first one we're going to talk about. This is by a brand called Golden, very popular acrylic painting company. This is their high solid gel gloss. So it's really cool stuff. It is great for if you want to build up a texture to make your paint almost look like buttercream icing, okay? And I'll show you what I mean in a second. Let me grab, say, like this pink, okay? And then you mix maybe about half paint, half gel medium, and you don't even maybe have to use that much paint if you don't want. This stuff does dry clear, so like it looks like the color of the paint. I know it looks like this pink is lighter than that pink, but not only does it blend in really thoroughly, it will dry like the color of the pink in the actual bottle. It won't look like the pale pink that I just applied. So you can paint with your palette knife if you want. You can use your brush, but like you get these really stiff peaks. I feel like I'm talking about making meringue here for a second. But like it will dry like that in these stiff, that's why they call it high solid gel gloss, because they will dry to high solid shapes, which is really, really cool texture. If you were just to do this with regular paint, it would just flatten out, but this painting medium is specifically made for that. Okay, the next thing we're going to try, these 3 things are by a company called Try Art Reharvested, and what they do is they take things that are cast aside and they make them into things for you to paint with. This is plastic, like shards of plastic. This is walnut shell. This is glass particles. So let's play with the plastic, shall we? These look like somebody just crushed up a ton of Nalgene bottles from when I was in college. That's what this looks like. Okay, so the cool thing about this stuff is you can paint with it, and you can just plop it right on your canvas if you want, especially if you're like, nah, I don't know what color I want here, but I know I want this crazy plastic shards. And so you could just paint that with, you could just plop some of the shards, the medium, onto your canvas, and then you can come back when it's dry the next day and then paint on top of it. You could totally do that. Or you can do like what I'm going to do right now, and I am going to mix some of this red into the plastic shards. It is really bizarre to mix. I definitely recommend mixing with your palette knife. A lot of times with regular paint, I just mix with my paintbrush just because I'm a creature of habit, and that's just what I do. But with this, it's really wacky. Like you almost need to use your paintbrush and your palette knife to scoop it up and onto the canvas. It's got really large chunks. So you can kind of spread them out with your brush if you want, or your palette knife, however you want to do it, but it does make these really large chunks, and it's very cool. You could plop some onto your corrugated cardboard if you want, if you can actually get some of the chunks to pick up. Yeah, just really cool stuff. You can spread them out, keep them in a giant clump, whatever you want to do. I will say, do not just take your palette knife and your paintbrush and just rinse them in the water of the water containers. No. You want to wipe them. I'm wiping them on a towel, which is in my lap right now. You could wipe them on a paper towel from the bathroom, like that you set up next to you, because we don't want shards of plastic and glass and walnut shell in the sinks here at Harvest Time, because we want to be good stewards of our space. So that takes care of the plastic shards. Let's try the walnut shell. I just think it's ironic that you guys were painting with walnut hull ink, and now here I am like, nah, try painting with the shells too, kids. So here we go. I'll give a little stir. And it is a really weird sort of gritty texture. Again, you could just slide it right over your painting. And it does have that kind of peculiar earthy smell that the ink had too, except mixed with plastic smell. So I'm going to mix a little bit of yellow with this. I will say, like, y'all be careful. Like, these are particles. Like, I do tend to warn people, like, don't be painting on your skin. But, like, you know, these are potential irritants. Like, these are glass particles and, like, chunks of plastic. Like, don't be putting this all over your skin. Not that I have to tell you guys how to behave, because you're practically grown-ups, half of y'all, so. Okay, look at that. You can make it into streaks, into lines, into bunches. You can swirl it, whatever you want to do with it. This is really cool stuff. Okay, so then the last one is the glass, and I just think this is really, really fun. I like it a little bit more than the walnut. Well, at least I do. The walnut is great, especially if you want to add a flat, sort of sandy texture. The glass, I feel like, is a little bit nicer if you want to build up a thicker texture, because it does tend to mound a little bit more nicely than the walnut, which the walnut shells, the crushed walnut shells tend to want to sort of slide apart and just ooze. So I'm going to grab some of my sort of ultramarine blue for the glass and kind of mix. Scoop it up. And it's really, oh, it's pretty. You can spread it thin, so you kind of get that pebbly, sandy sort of texture. Or it does mound up pretty nicely, too. You know, you can make a nice little mound of it with little divots or something like that. Okay, but again, don't be washing your brush with glass particles straight down the sink. I don't really want to have to like explain that to whoever has to come fix the plumbing or whatnot. So, okay. That's basically the MO for this. Okay, so it's basically you have your texture gel mediums, which you can use today and next time. They're not, or you know, at the start of the class. I don't know when you're watching this actually. I hope you get a chance to watch this before class because I'm planning on emailing it out. A link to this video. But if you don't get a chance to watch it before class, I hope you get a chance to watch it in class too. And don't panic. These are going to be available after this class. They will be available the last day that we work on these as well too, along with a couple of other fun things. The last thing I want to mention is make sure that on the last day, if you want to bring in any found objects, pieces of broken jewelry, you know, earrings that they're missing the other part of their earring, or little scraps of fabric or lace or yarn or anything else you want to work into your painting that you think would be really fun, go for it. Like, this is really kind of a, you know, no holds barred painting. It's a really great way to explore all the different ways that we communicate with art. Okay, I love you guys. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving too, and I wish I could be with you all. Yeah. Oh, and don't feel too bad. This was a painting that my 5-year-old did when he was 3 and then decided he didn't want it anymore. So more recycling. All right. You guys have a great day. Love you lots, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.